We already have 800 people, so maybe we should just get started. What do you think?
800? Number keeps going up, though. Can we get to
We can
850?
we can give it a
Can we
minute
get
or two.
I think we can get to 850. Almost. All right. We've hit my arbitrary threshold of good numbers. I think we can get going
All
if
right.
you'd like to.
Yeah, let's do it. So, greetings, everyone. It's a great day for an event in DDevs, another event. I'm honored to be surrounded by so many virtual profile pictures on this virtual stage. Um, so, quick introductions for those that don't know us. I'm the engineering manager on the apps and API team at Discord. My name is Ian Mitchell. I'm joined by Mason, who's a product manager and a World of Warcraft player. And we've got some great stuff for you today. So we'll go through the usual housekeeping and updates and announcements. Then Mason is going to talk about app discovery and some very exciting changes there and what you should do to get ready and what to expect. Then we're going to hear from DevSnack. They're going to talk about the text input component. And then we'll hear from the communities team. Uh, Heimu will be telling us about scheduled events. So this is all stuff that I think many community members have been asking questions about for a long time. So hopefully we can give you some great information today. And then we will move to Q&A after that. So, some general reminders. For Q&A, we're using the link to Slido that we posted last week for questions. So if you ask questions in the text channels while we're hosting the event, we're not going to see them or we might not see them. If you have a burning question, please submit them to us ahead of time. As usual, you can still upvote. Right now, we'll leave this on for the entire live session so you can bubble up questions that you want to see answered, but new questions will close at the start of this event or maybe have already closed. I know a handful of last minute ones were added. Um, so every submitted question is publicly votable, except for a few. If you don't see your question, it might be because it's about things that are unannounced that the API team aren't the ones to answer questions about. Um, as a reminder, this is time to talk about this event is time for you to talk with the team that works on the API. So if you ask questions about client features or other things that we've talked about in the past, um, we'll have to set those aside. We also try to deduplicate questions to make it so that your time is well spent. So that's another reason why a question may not appear in the Slido. If you have a question and you don't have time to submit before the event started, we're sending out a post-event survey like usual, so you can submit feedback there and we'll see it. That's my talk about questions and Slido. The second thing I want to talk to you all about is a reminder that message content is becoming a privileged intent after April 30th, 2022. Um, you can apply for this now. So, as we discussed in the last time we had this event, intent applications can be done directly from the developer portal. You no longer need to submit like a separate support ticket for intents. Um, and as far as ticket status, we have responded to all tickets older than a week up to today with just a quick follow up. We're actioning those that have received a reply back. So that means everyone in the event should have heard something within a week. You should respond to that message. And anyone who's heard since, like as of today, um, should be able to expect a follow up sometime during the week after Thanksgiving. Um, as a reminder, the message content intent is for verified bots only. Unverified bots can still access message content. This change doesn't affect them, and message content will still work in DMs and mentions. That's important. The next order of business, DDEV server refresh. So tomorrow, we're going to be freezing the server for about 15 minutes at 10 a.m. California time to make some changes. Don't panic. Um, these changes are just improvements that we want to make across the server. You'll see like announcements and compiled FAQ resources all in one place. The event chat will become more streamlined and it'll be easier to find old posts and like comments from staff from previous events. So thank you to everyone who sent in suggestions on our surveys for how to evolve the server and make sure it's easier to find information that you need. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a survey going out today after this event, like we normally do, which you can use to send suggestions for us to consider for the future, whether it's about DDEVs or about other things. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of messages in chat, so I haven't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all I was supposed to talk about.
It's
Which means
mostly just random panicking.
okay, great, causing panic. Um, Yeah, okay. That means it's time to hear from Mason, who's going to tell us about app discovery.
What's up, everybody? Good to be with everybody again. Quick word from me before we get into the fun demos, and then you get to hear me talk more. Excuse me. So, as y'all probably saw or heard about or read about last week, we announced that app discoverability, bot discoverability, is coming to Discord and has partly already been here. So, what does this mean? App discoverability is more than just one launch, more than just one feature, more than just one thing. It is this whole concept of it should be super easy to find apps and bots that you like and that'll be good for you and that you all have made. Um, you saw our first take at that last week, where you can go add the add to server button to your bot's profiles. And that way, anybody who finds you can really easily, with one click, just add your bot to their server and love it. There's a lot more to come in the future. We're not going to talk about all of it right now, but there's more to come. And we know you all have a lot of questions that will be answered in the future. So for right now, let's just talk about the things that you can do right now. So go add the default invite link for your bot. This will enable the add to server button on your bot's profile, which will show up relatively instantly. You might need to refresh because caching. This will be a criteria for more stuff in the future. This is sort of like the opt-in. So you'll want to make sure that you go and enable this if you are ready for your bot to be discoverable. You can go and do this today. Anybody can do it, verified or unverified, does not matter. Hey, we hit 1,000 people. So yes, go do it. Super exciting. Again, it is opt-in. So if you have some stuff you want to take care of first, or you don't want that yet, or you're just not ready, totally fine. It is totally opt-in. Next, you can add tags to your bot. We really want to have a better understanding of all the bots that we have on Discord. So this will help us classify so that we can have better searching and recommendation experiences in the future. You need at least one tag. You can add up to 5. We will probably make this a requirement at verification time pretty soon, just to make sure that everybody's doing this. But if you're already verified, please go do this. It's going to help everybody out, both us and users in the future, and you. You can do that today in the dev portal. Again, as I mentioned, all of this stuff is opt-in, so if you're not ready to be blasted out to a bunch of people yet, you can wait. That's okay. I see a question, what if we don't have any tags? You won't have any to start. You have to go fill them in. Otherwise, 2 sort of bigger notes to prepare for the future. Now's a good time to start thinking about like changes, optimizations, refreshes that you might want to make from sort of like a marketing or user experience perspective. Thinking about your branding, your profile images, any websites that you have, your support servers, links, instructions, command names, help. Like I said, there's a lot more coming in the future, so start thinking about how your bot sort of presents itself to people and how you might want to present it. And finally, like I said, the idea of bot and app discoverability is more than just one feature. Some of it will be widely available to every single bot. Some more features in the future might be a little bit more stringent to start until we're ready to open it up a little bit more broadly. In general, the best advice that we can give you is, start considering and following best practices. Um, think about migrating to slash commands. Think about migrating to buttons and select menus. Think about how you're going to handle the message intent based on what you do. Be ready, be following our best practices, keep up with the news of all the new features and stuff that we're launching, and you should be good to go. That's all that I wanted to talk about for there. We're super excited. Go add your buttons, go add your tags, and more information in the future.
All right. So the next topic is text input, a component for that. DevSnack is hopefully somewhere here. Oh, hi.
Hello, everyone.
And yeah, take it away.
I'm just gonna post a link here in the stage info channel that y'all can take a look at. Um, there we go. So yeah, basically, we've got a new upcoming interaction type, basically called a like a model or a form or something like that. And basically, what this allows you to do is present form type inputs to users. So basically, we've had a lot of feedback about like, taking longer form inputs or, more directed inputs from users. And this is sort of intended to be a solution to that. So at launch, they'll only support this new input text component type. There is a nice image here in the document about uh, what that looks like. Um, and basically, yeah, you can sort of style it into either a sort of shorter form input or a more like, open paragraph input, based on whatever it is you're, trying to get. And then basically, we will, show that to the user and it will be fully validated and such, and then sent to your application to, do whatever you want with it. There's also a video in the document here for a little uh, demo. I'm sorry, I don't have a real live demo. Hopefully soon people can start trying this out, but not quite yet. Um, yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Um, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And again,
Yeah,
there's a document in the stage info channel there if you're curious about specifics of what the API looks like and things of that nature.
it is a sweet looking modal.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Wow, looks like we got some stuff going on in the stage
Yeah,
discussion channel.
the spam is kind of real. Apologies, everybody.
I think the bot was turned down so people could say thanks, Mason, without getting banned. Don't know what the deal is there.
We've brought it on ourselves.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, the modal is actually awesome. So, oh
Oh
God,
my God.
it's so distracting. Can't talk and I don't know do this at the same time. Um, so definitely check out the document that was posted in the stage info channel to get a peek of what is coming there. Um, great. Thank you, Mr. DevSnack. And now we're gonna hear from the communities team about uh, that thing, scheduled events. Come on up. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So my name is Heimu. I'm a developer from the communities team, and I'm going to talk about the schedule events feature here. I just posted a link, the stage info. So if you want to follow along, please feel free to open that right now. So schedule events, it's nothing groundbreaking. It is, a way for you to plan a time and location for members to gather and do something together, right? So if you've ever tried to plan an event or use the calendar, this will probably sound familiar to you. It's the concept is very similar. It's just integrated into your server, and it's like tailored for you. So let's say you're trying to plan an event where you're going to hop into a voice channel with some friends and play online games together. And some of the questions that might come up are, and it's very different if it's just going to be 5 people. You could probably just wing it, just make it be more organic, where you just hop in and start playing. But if it's going to be 50 people, you probably need to plan to break them into groups ahead of time. If you're trying to plan a tournament, probably need to set up some brackets, right? So having an idea how many people are going to show up, pretty important. So there's some other concerns, like if it's a small server and you pretty much know everybody, it's nice to know exactly who's going to come, and kind of know in real time if they change their mind without constantly reaching out and doing a lot of manual coordination. Then like figuring out how you're going to let everybody know. Are you going to post in the announcements channel? Are you going to set up are you going to create a post and then pin it somewhere? So what schedule events is doing is trying to simplify this for you so that you don't have a ton of manual coordination and manual communication and like trying to glue together these external tools with Google Calendar, Google Sheets. So I'm going to just try to walk through the workflow here for how to use events and try to show you how it ties together with the API endpoints that we just exposed to y'all. So if you want to build bots for this, you can. So starting with the lion here, main entry point. So the events are exposed. So the events for your guild show up in this channel item that sits above your channel sidebar. So if you click on that events item, I'm not sure exactly what to call it because it's not a channel, but like if you click on the events item, you'll get a list of events that are currently planned. And so if you do that for this server right now, you should see the event that's happening right now, this Q&A. And this is exposed through our get API, this get endpoint. So this will return a list of scheduled events for your guild right now. Then scrolling down to the dolphin here, creating an event. The way you get an event to show up in that browser is you create it, and you can create it with, there's a menu option in the top left server menu, or you can also use that blue create event button in the browser. So hit that, fill out the details, you hit create, and you should get a link that you can share. And when you share the link in chat, it should show your event details right underneath your message. And we have an endpoint exposed for that as well to create events. So scrolling down to the octopus here, one important concept of events is the type. The type basically tells you where people are going to gather. So if it's a stage channel, a voice channel, and we have this more free form type somewhere else, this could be a specific game server you'll need to join, or it could even be an IRL location. People still do IRL stuff, I don't know. It could be a text channel. So that is what we call the entity type in our API. So there's a link to that. Scrolling down to the T-Rex, RSVPing. So when you create an event, you want to know who's going to come. And the way your members express their interest, the way they RSVP, is by hitting that little interested button that shows up next to the event. So as soon as people start hitting that, you'll see the count start going up. And then if you click on the actual event details, there's an interested tab that you can go to, and you'll be able to see exactly who's coming, up to about 100 users. We cap it right now but we might show you more later. But you'll at least be able to see up to the first 100 people that are interested. And we have an endpoint exposed for this as well, so you can pull all of the users that are currently interested in an event. And then moving down to the whale here, when it's time to start your event, you can do that by using the context menu there. So you just right click on the event and hit start event. And as soon as you start it, you'll get a nice notification that shows up for everybody in the server right above the channel bar. So if you look at our server right now, you'll see that our event is at the top, and people can just hit that button and immediately join the stage channel where the event's taking place. And also your channel, your voice channel, your stage channel is going to change. The color will be green, and the event title will show up right under the channel name. To end an event, we have a couple of different ways. Right click on the channel, right click on the event. Also, even if you don't want to do all of that, if you are the last person that can manage events in that channel and you leave, we will ask you nicely, we see that you're leaving, do you want to end the event too? We have an endpoint exposed for that as well. So that explains how the schedule event feature works. And recently we exposed the API for this, so you can start using this in your bots. And if you have any other questions, there is a Guild schedule events channel that we're trying to keep up with, so you can post them in there for now. And I think that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Hemu. This is awesome and much anticipated. Yeah, so hopefully people are following along on the link in stage info. There's also, as Hemu just mentioned, the guild schedule events questions channel in DDevs. So you can follow up there with more questions, and I'm sure Hemu will be hanging around to answer questions. Yeah, so I know a handful of people got banned again for thanking Mason. We are working on that. Shout out to the moderators, A Enterprise, Crystal Cat, everyone else. Yeah. I guess yeah, that's punishment for thanking Mason. Okay, what's coming next? We're gonna do some Q&A. So let's last time someone got angry at me for saying slide into Slido. So I'm not gonna say that this time. We're just gonna switch to Slido without
No.
yeah. I was so excited. You know, I came up with that myself. I practiced saying it for weeks, but people were upset. I'm not going to say slide into Slido. So, yeah, follow along. Let me post the Slido link in stage info again. And yeah, this is the part where I ask the question, or the community asks the questions through me, and Mason usually answers them. So Mason, I have a question for you. It's from
Usually
probably not the
answers them. Rough.
all the time. I guess what I was okay, I'm not yeah, let's move on. Okay, so this one is from Mr. Cryptic X, possibly the real one, possibly an imposter. They ask any plans for Discord to be more open with developers to allow them to opt into features / test them instead of always allowing moderators, DMD, to give their 2 cents. Developers also can have a voice.
Yes, developers absolutely have a voice, and we do this, and we plan to continue doing it. I think what this question might be getting at in particular is like more uh, wider allowance into early features is maybe the best way to put it. And I think it's important to understand like both the size of the audience and why we do this testing. Um, DMD, for those of you who do not know, is Discord moderator Discord, very fantastically named. And it's where, much like in Discord developers, we talk to our moderator community. It's about 750 people. Let's compare that to this server, which is about 100,000 people. And trying to do very broad beta testing, early testing like that is a lot harder at the scale that we're at. So we're just so popular, and you all love me so much that it's a little bit more difficult. But I also want to talk a little bit about why we do this kind of testing. As fun as it is to get features early and to test things out and to try them, we do it for a reason. It's not just because it's fun. It's because when we make new stuff, it impacts people. When we make new features in Discord, new features for servers, new features for users, it impacts bot developers. And it also impacts very directly server moderators, especially when they are things that can have bad content put into them, like people doing per server avatars that they can do bad stuff with, or about me sections, or new features to better combat spam and stuff like that. So a lot of the times we will take those things and bring them to that moderator Discord and say, how is this going to affect you day to day? Not everything goes to them. Not every feature is something that they get access to early, but some of them do. We do the same thing for developers in this server. There are some private channels where we talk to the library developers and some bot developers, and we tell them, hey, these things are coming. There's this new feature that's happening that either our team is building or a different team is building. Get access, test it out, give us some thoughts, and most importantly, tell us, like, how are you going to be able to integrate this? What problems might this cause? Can your moderation bots handle these new things that we are making? So we do have that feedback right here, actually. Not every new feature is applicable to every person on Discord. Not every new feature gets tested by everybody. As fun as it is to get things early, that's not the point of doing these things. The point is that so we can talk to the people who are really going to be impacted by these things and make sure that we're doing the right stuff to allow them to keep their communities safe, their bots updated, and stuff like that. So we will continue to test things early with people to give us feedback. It's not going to be everybody, and I'm sorry for that. But this is a really important part of how we make new stuff.
Okay. Next question is not a question. It's just a statement from Anonymous. Include invite code used on guild member ad.
I like the statement. Same thing as last time. We know that this is a huge request. We know that it can be used for things that we don't like on Discord. Things like um well, pyramid schemes is maybe the nicest way to put it, although I don't know of a perhaps more specific term. Being able to pay a bunch of people to go invite a bunch of other people and then attributing those invites, those types of things. It's not inherently a bad thing, but it can lead to abusive behavior, so it's not something that we can just immediately open up without talking to some other teams and making sure that they can handle what might happen if we do that. Again, I know on that GitHub issue from many years ago, we talked about saying that we felt that it was okay and that we were going to open it. That was from a number of years ago. Discord is a much larger and a little bit of a different platform than we were back then. So we do sort of have to have those conversations again with what we currently know.
Okay. I like the next question. Will you be making a bot insight page like you have for community servers?
I really like this feature guessing game that we've gotten ourselves into, where we get questions about, are you guys going to build new features? And then I have to very carefully figure out how to answer something that doesn't sound like a promise, but also gives some information. um, I think that there are a lot of really great features that we could build to make developers on Discord more successful. in making new stuff and in running their stuff. And I think that a feature like this would definitely go a long way towards that goal of making developers more successful.
Very interesting, Mason. Okay. Next question is from Delius. Will there be a component for entering channels and roles in which it will be possible to specify which channels/roles the user can choose and their number?
Yeah, we want to update the select menu stuff to support this for channels and roles, probably for users. We also want to make it work with the autocomplete stuff that we did for string option types and number option types for slash commands. Um, the reason that it wasn't in the first release is because select menu component that mobile uses and that desktop users were written entirely from scratch, which I know sounds silly because we have other things like them in other places. But one of the things that we did at that time was to make a new select menu component with a lot more accessibility features. But that means that at the time that we made it, it didn't have some of these other features. So we will be going back and adding those.
Great. Next is from Zelda Fan. Hi, Zelda Fan. Are there any plans on raising the character limit for slash commands? You can have 625 subcommands, but 4,000 characters for all text fields, dot, dot, dot. I already ran into the limit with 9 subcommands, and it is quite annoying.
I think we're gonna have to bump this a little bit for localization anyway, because of like sending localized dictionaries. So the way that we compute this might change a little bit anyway. Um, Stay tuned on this would be my answer. And if that change doesn't happen here, um, we can like look at our data and see how big of a problem this is and see how many people are running into this as well and figure out ways that we might be able to alleviate this. Um, it I will put the caveat that I do on everything, which is that like the larger you make the limits, the more people can abuse stuff with the limits. So we do have to be mindful, and there will need to be limits on things. But this is something that we can definitely look at and might be changing somewhat soon anyway.
Yeah, I think so the relevant engineer can step in and talk if they want. But I think we did look at this character limit for localization. What we found in the analysis is that like the vast majority of people, 99% of people aren't using this in a way where they will hit the limit. Um, so that's the other part of the answer that I want to give, which is like, yeah, it's not affecting a ton of people. Not sure that's what the people here want to hear, but anyway. Um, Next question is from Kai Schallenberg. Are you still pursuing the plan to make a pop-up dialog window usable for developers, for example, to make a configuration of a bot more convenient for users?
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw the first iteration of this with what DevSnec showed. Although it only supports text boxes to start, or text inputs to start, we have explicitly made it in a way that it will be easy to port other components. Um, some components won't probably ever quite make it. Like having buttons inside of a form is not really a thing. But select menus, or other types of components that we could make in the future, like radio buttons instead of like buttons, can be added to stuff like this. Um, so yes, that form stuff is built in a way that we can build on it more in the future.
Cool. Next question is, the idea of a sandbox mode, kind of like staging, is heavily upvoted on GitHub. Any news on this idea internally? What are the chances that we see this become a reality? It's a little bit related to the first question.
So yeah, it's a little bit related to the first question. I think what this really boils down to, if I can like make some assumptions, is nitro features, right? Like if features aren't released yet, a sandbox mode doesn't let you get access to unreleased things. That's not the point of a sandbox mode. A sandbox mode is to build on stuff that exists in a controlled environment where you have access to everything. Um, so the real question is mostly around things like boosted server features. I don't have an answer for this right now, although I do understand that like it is something that people want. I don't know if making a full sandbox environment is like actually the solution for how do bots test integrations with boosted server features. Um, but I think that's really what it comes down to. And it's a question that I don't have an answer to, but we should continue to look into and try to figure out a way.
Great. The next question is from Anonymous. Would you reconsider the message content intent deadline to make live migration less stressful for developers?
Um, yeah, as I've said before, we keep a pretty close pulse on this stuff. Um, the queues are looking really good for folks who are applying, and continued improvements to slash commands and interactions are happening. As I've said before, if we find ourselves in a place where it's a problem, we can always consider doing something differently. But things are looking good right now. And a you know quote unquote after April 30th, meaning like at least May, is still another 6 months away.
All right. Belro asks, can you add the possibility to remove a user from enlisted schedule event member? Question mark.
Good question. Yeah, hey, Himu.
Hello. I if I if I think I understand the question, and I apologize if I don't. Feel free to post it again in Guild Schedule events. But so if you could remove them from the RSVP list for an event, I think that's what we're asking.
I think so.
If you were to
Yeah.
do, yeah, so if you were to do that, it's not the RSVP isn't really binding, so you wouldn't block them from actually joining your voice or stage channel. But they're the way to do that is you would actually remove permissions for them for the channel, and they wouldn't be able to see the event at that point. So there is a permissions structure that is explained in the docs. It's a little verbose, but so if a user doesn't have access to a channel, then they won't see any events that are happening in that channel. So they wouldn't be able to RSVP in the first place. So that might be what you're after, but if not, please ask again in that channel. And something that'll be helpful is a bit more use cases to try to help us understand, and we can get back to you.
Thank you very much, Himu.
Thanks, Emu.
I want to answer one quick question that I saw just going by in chat. Does anyone know if the text input components will be usable within messages? No, as a pretty explicit choice. The reason that we made this form modal thing is because having a bunch of like open text fields in chat is not great. Um, yes, there is the use case where like you're DMing somebody and therefore chat is not going to move a lot and it might not be as weird. But if you think about it more broadly, like imagine trying to type input into a chat box that is moving across your screen because chat keeps scrolling. So having this blocking form modal is like specifically the reason that we wanted to do it this way.
And I just want to add, you can launch them from like button presses and stuff, so it's pretty easy to get a user into that UI.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The modal response, the modal is actually an interaction response. It is not a command that you have to register. So if you want to respond to a slash command or a context menu command or a button press or a select menu press with a modal, it's like super, super flexible.
Great. Thank you, everyone, both people who answered that question. Um, okay, next question's an interesting one. Instead of releasing more and more features, why don't you instead take the time to fix and improve upon the current features like slash commands?
But we can do both. We're doing both. um, as a more serious answer, uh, the bots team itself um, is big enough that we can do both, which is really fantastic. And considering that it started a couple years ago with me, Knight, and Voltana, and that was it. Seeing it grow to the size that we're at is pretty incredible. But it's also important to remember that like we are just one team at Discord, and there are a ton of others. Um, I know, like from your perspective, that doesn't matter. You don't look at it that way. We are just Discord who is making things. But like the team that made the scheduled events and the event feature is entirely different from the people who are, us who are here talking to you today, minus Heyman. We coordinate with them so that you guys can get access to things and make sure that you understand them and have documentation and stuff like that. But there's a whole bunch of teams at Discord that are making a whole bunch of different stuff. And our team can both make improvements to things and make new features at the same time. And in some cases, those new features are the improvement to solve a problem that has existed before. Um, so if you don't want new features, I'm happy to take them from you. But in reality, we can and do both to solve problems.
Great. Moving on, we have a question from Kane. Any plans on changing the min-max option value error message to something more user-friendly? I'd like to use this feature, but the current error message just discourages me from using it as I'm sure nobody would understand what the issue is.
Yeah, that's totally fair. We probably need to take a pass on some of like the interaction error messages that we have and make them a little bit friendlier. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Josh asks, could we get command option types slash components for durations and date times? Bots frequently use temporary mutes or bans or create reminders, require users to type strings like 2 weeks or 2W, which can be unintuitive or misspelled. This type would be good. It would resolve to an integer representing seconds.
yes. I had a few other things I've said this like having a date time actual visible thing and having it be an option type is very, very high on my list of things that we want to do. As I've said before, we are prioritizing like necessary things. And I don't mean that to say that these things aren't like very important, but like things that are blockers to doing um, message content migrations for April, like a better permission system. And I'm sure you're all sick of me saying that. Once we get through those like absolutely must have things, we can get to these like very, very, very almost must have, but not actually mandatory yet things like daytime pickers. Because I agree with you, having to Google an ISO timestamp every time I want to do something is actually the worst.
It is the worst. Okay, next question is, will you be making select menus for channels, roles, and emojis? I think we answered this above. Anything to add, Mason?
Nope. I do think that there was one question that got bumped over though. The
Um,
Some time ago there was an experiment for displaying members when you hover over a role ping. Was this idea scrapped or why did it never ship? Pretty sure DevSnec was the one that worked on that. What happened? Cache issues.
Yeah, we just need to. This was like, yeah, it's super low priority, but basically, we just need to figure out some cache issues so that, like, when you pop that up and if it doesn't, if it doesn't show every user there, it could be misleading. So there's just a little bit of work that needs to be done there.
Cool. Thank you. I'm gonna take one more out of order question because I don't see it in the next ones to talk about slash command localization. Um, which is something that is absolutely imminently being worked on right now. Um, Ian, I know that you have been working closely with this and Infinite Story. If you want to come up and say hi as well and talk about it, you're welcome to, or continue hanging out. But maybe you can give us an update on how the localization stuff is looking.
Um, not sure if they're going to come up. I think we'll probably talk about this. Like we'll probably talk about this properly. Um,
Hmm.
in another section in another session. I mean, the localization stuff is a big change. So it's been coming along. Infant Story has been working on it a lot. Yeah, I think you can just come up if you want. You have the power. Just have to find the button.
If you click on the stage, you should see and like pull up the stage screen. You should see a button at the bottom that says like become speaker or move to speaker or something like that. Hello.
Oh, I found it. I
Hey,
have the power. Okay.
welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, localization is currently being worked on. So when I say localization, I currently just mean like showing localized versions of slash commands, names, descriptions, options, things like that. So not localizing interaction responses. We're still working through data privacy issues on that. But with regards to actually showing localized commands in the client, the backend work for that is currently in review. We're making good progress on it and are hoping to get the backend largely working within the next week or two, and then take a crack at making clients locale aware so that they can actually display these new names. And once that's ready for use, I'll report back here so that you can start adding localizations to your slash commands. Some of you seem to have already noticed that localization fields are being added to slash command interaction API responses. Those are not officially ready for use yet. I don't promise that they work as you expect them to. I will let you know as soon as possible when we have any updates on the usability or the timeline.
Thank you very much.
Sweet. Infinite Story appreciation. Thank you. All right, the next thing on Slido, I'm scared to do this, but it
Should we
is
save it for
thanks,
the
Mason.
end? No.
Damn it, I said it. Thank you, Mason, for answering all the questions so far. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Really
Ian,
appreciate it.
for
Thank
asking
you,
me all these
Mason.
questions and being a wonderful host.
Probably no one will get banned.
That's a strong comment. Probably no one. Maybe not no one, but who's really to say?
Yeah, I have a couple people in my DMs who are banned from earlier. Oh, thanks, A Enterprise. Okay. Yeah, moving on. Um, yeah, I guess this question is from Anonymous. They are wondering what is now actually the successor of Discord.py. I've heard that PyCord is relatively good. What's your opinion for all the Python developers?
The successor is what you would like it to be. We do not officially curate any of these libraries other than adding them to the documentation upon request, and once they sort of like reach a decent enough size. Um, but there's quite a few of them. I've heard PyCord is good. Um, One of the other folks in the Slido responses to this question mentioned Discord Pi Interactions, which was sort of like a monkey patch plugin on Discord Pi that is going to spin off and be its own library. All good if those are the things that you're doing. I know that some of them are like very like mimicking the structure of Discord Pi so that you can basically just swap the library name and everything works. Some of them are more like fuller rewrites. So it really depends on what you think is best for you, and we certainly encourage you to go figure out which libraries is going to solve your problems. We don't curate them officially. I think there's a bunch that are doing a good job, and it'll sort of be up to the community to see what horse wins. This snake I've also heard of. There's also one more that I forget the name of. I apologize.
Great. Next question is from Yami Kai 2. Any timeline on when the API will support IPv6?
Yeah, this is a great question. We would like to, and it is like tentatively planned, but my latest understanding is that our cloud provider, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, does not have a lot of great IPv6 support. They only really have support in their load balancers, which is not enough for us to allow all of Discord to support IPv6. So like we would like to do it too, but our provider doesn't have enough functionality for us right now, so we can't. That
All right.
information might be slightly out of date, but it's what I remember.
That's what we'll go with. The next question is, any idea when context menu commands might come to mobile? Not a strict timeline, just a vague idea of where on the to-do list it falls.
Yeah, we started a little bit on this, didn't we? And just never totally
We
finished
started. Zayla is laughing in chat. I think
it.
I can kind of answer this. I think that it's something that we want to do. Uh, it's a bit lower on the priority list. I think we got started on it a little bit, but we bumped it in favor of some of the big things that we want to ship for interactions, like localization, following up on the permissions work. So you can expect to see it after some of that stuff comes out.
Cool.
Great. Next question is the new permission system devs be able to set defaults for subcommand groups and subcommands? Okay, so it's asking are permissions
Mhm.
per command or subcommands and subcommand groups?
Oh, what are we doing right now? What are we doing? What are we doing? I think for the most immediate MVP, it's just top level commands, although I know that we're going to have to solve that. Um, Problem is that subcommands and groups don't actually have their own ID based on the way that we built them. So, like, to put a database record in for a permission, we need both the permission and the matching command ID, but subcommands and subcommand groups don't have an ID. So we'd have to come up with some like mixed system of parent command ID plus name hash or something. Um, I imagine, yeah, and then do database migrations, which everybody loves. I imagine eventually, like, we do need to support this. The very, very first version that we will test with, I don't think is going to have support for them just because of that infrastructure reason. All right, Jake is just correcting me all over the place when it comes to IPv6. I will, if Jake, if you want to come up and give a minute on what the real reasons are, and I'm out of date, that's cool. Or come do a separate. Maybe we can schedule for a separate DDev learn about IPv6 support sometime in the future. Thank you for answering questions and proving me wrong.
Good to have Jake in the chat to set the record straight.
What would we do without him?
Okay, so Felix asks, when will there be more than just the admin role in Teams? Restricted rights like no access to tokens, for example.
Yeah. Like we talked earlier about like bot insights, I think that improvements to teams and roles within teams absolutely fall under like things to help make developers more successful. The good news is that when we built out the new dev portal, which we did over 2 years ago, I think now. Oh my gosh. We built it in a way that we can do really granular per route permissions when we're ready to implement them. For things like writing versus reading to resources so that we could do things like let you see the client secret but not regenerate it, let you see the token but not change it, or not let you see the token at all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the shell and the backbone is there. Building out support for it, I think, is definitely something that we're interested in sort of that developer success mind frame.
Yeah, definitely. Next question is from Vabby. Will you add the ability to create widgets, mini sites, and chats can be created as a separate channel with a link to the site or HTML code?
Okay, I have 3 answers to this question.
Will you or will you not commit to this?
We will not do this. We will not do this the way that it is stated. The other 2 options are like, what about iframes? And the reason that we don't just like allow iframes to exist and be free in Discord chat is because of a whole host of security reasons. As much as we would love to make those fun and fancy for everybody, we do have to be very, very careful about like exploits in Chrome and stuff that can happen. However, I will take this moment to answer this by answering a question from earlier that was asked about like improvements to embeds and stuff like that. Embeds do their work pretty well. I think that there is a much better way that we could make to like format and structure data inside of Discord. I actually hope that components can be the first building block to something like that. It's not going to be like a full website, and it probably still won't be iframes, but I think the way that you have to structure stuff today using the embeds and the fields that you have is pretty difficult, and there's probably a much better way that we could do something like this.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Okay, so the next question is from Bavian. Any chance for substring matching for slash commands? Currently, a command this, that. Oh, I'm not gonna say this out loud, but you get the idea.
Yes. Substring matching, yes. As I've mentioned before, and I know you're sick of me, I know you're all sick of me saying this. Um, we're doing work on permissions right now. Once we finish permissions and like know that that API is set, we can start doing these other things like fuzzy matching, substring matching of commands, hiding them entirely instead of marking them as disabled. The reason that we need to wait is because doing that work requires like a pretty decent backend rewrite of how we fetch commands from our database. And so we want to make sure that we know all of the changes that we need to make before we go and do that. But that is planned.
Yes, it
Fun
is.
fact, although it is not explicitly planned, it would also allow us to do things like tags on commands or something like that. Like if you could tag a subset of commands as moderation and type that and get results. Not something explicitly planned, but things like that could be possible.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. All right. Next question is, will Discord consider giving bug hunter badges to API bug reports?
Probably not, no.
Oh, okay then. Um, yeah, we're kind of at the end. We're kind of out of time. So I don't know, Mason, if you wanna if
I-
there's anything remaining that jumps out to you.
Maybe this last question, because I think it's pretty relevant.
Uh,
Not the insights one, the one afterwards.
okay. Will it be possible for library developers to opt into messages intent enforcement early to check that it doesn't cause any issues so we can push back needed patches well before the deadline for bots to update?
Yeah.
That's a good
So just
question.
yes, it is a good question. Just to end on this, I'll put my foot in my mouth a little bit, but hopefully this is something that we can do before the end of this year. Is basically ship the next gateway version and the next API version that includes these changes, so that it won't yet be mandatory, but it will be available so that you can start testing this stuff. You can test what happens if your bot or bots on your library have the intent, don't have the intent, how do they access stuff, etc. I think we can maybe still get it out before the year's up, but we definitely want to get it out before the changes happen so that you can test and be prepared.
Great. Something to look forward to. I think that we can wrap it up here. I just want to give a big shout out to the mods of DDevs. You guys do have helped us so much today, especially, but just like in general. So thank you, mods. Thank you to everyone who came up and taught and spoke today. Heymu, DevSnack, Infinite Story, and thank you, Mason, very much for showing up to work today. Thank you,
Ethan.
everyone, for coming. See ya.
See y'all next time.